over the years moved from Web 1 to Web 2, and now there is a talk of Web 3. There was some time ago where if you wanted to go to a website, you have maybe ncc.gov.ng to your browser to get to NCC. But in today's Web 2, so to say, you can put in a long word, how to make money on the internet. Type that into your browser. It will lead you to a site. There were times when that won't happen. But we've seen the internet progress. But even much more than that, we have now seen a lot of dynamic innovations that have been going on. Some time ago, the buzzword in town was IoT, Internet of Things. Very hungry devices are going to be created, smart devices that could tap into your mind and even predict your future, so to say. And we have seen a lot of involvement, a lot of changes, even thereafter. Now we're in the era of artificial intelligence. So you want to, you walk into a store and they're able to tell you what you need. Everything is dropped in a cart even before you arrive there, because they know your shopping trend. They know the things that you require or the things that you normally would need on a daily basis. So those things are already put in a basket for you, and then you can just decide to pick one or two other things and drop it into the basket. That is because technology has been so trained to know what it is that we need or will require, and they are able to adjust to that. And aside from these different trends, cryptocurrency, cryptos, machine learning, blockchain, the list is endless, and I'm sure some of our panelists here today will speak about it. But with regards to this topic that we have in front of us, insight on Nigeria, emerging technologies and insight on Nigeria, I want to draw our mind back to something that happened not too long ago. We woke up one day, Nigerians, to find out that the government pulled a big hammer on cryptocurrencies. And not only was there a ban, now cryptocurrency, this is just one example, is a global trend. It's not only happening in Nigeria, it's happening all over the world. It's seen to be another authoritative form of exchange, a currency of its own. But here, the Nigerian government, for good reasons, banned cryptocurrencies, and it became very difficult for you to be able to access wallets. In fact, it became illegal to have such wallets or to do any type of transaction of that sort in Nigerian soil. But what that simply did was, for the millions of users who were already catching on to that trend, all that simply did was that they moved their accounts out of the Nigerian shores, right? And they set up accounts with other digital wallet providers outside the country. So we just saw a transference of what should naturally be in country moving to another space out there. So there was a migration of accounts. That meant that whatever laws would have been made to manage such transactions in Nigeria would no longer have effect, because people who moved their accounts to other countries will now be impacted by the laws of those countries. They were moving finance, they were moving monies. Yes, it's more physical, but this is something that has a lot of value, and we're moving all that value into other nations. That's to tell us, that's to give an insight to how policies, local regulation and policies will also have an effect on emerging trends and developments. And so I would want at this point to yield the floor to all of our panelists that are up here, and just hear from them what their thoughts are about emerging technologies. What promises does this hold, especially for our country, Nigeria? When you're talking about emerging technologies, it's always in a research, and it starts in a research and development phase. There's that point of creating it, and then they are testing the market out. But then there is still a need to localize how it works to different locations, geographies, you know, and stuff like this. So we just want to hear your views, sirs and Ma, and we have eminent personalities here on your thoughts around emerging technologies and how you think this can impact the economy of Nigeria as a nation, and also the capital mindset that it could help with in terms of, you know, people being trained not only to use such technologies, but to also create technologies that are, you know, of similar values. To start with, can we have Professor Gloria, you know, for another 3 to 5 minutes speak to this subject?
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, moderator and fellow panelists. Are you hearing me clearly?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, good,
yes.
Good. I thank the moderator. He has given a quick overview of some of the features of emerging technologies. But first and foremost, I want to say that globally today, anything you can imagine and you're able to describe it can be built and put into use using one or a combination of these technologies. So the question is now, what is the impact? What are the benefits? What are the risks? So that is a question. And then how can we as Nigerians benefit from the use of such technologies? So going back to the topic, emerging technologies, from Nigerian perspective, when you mention emerging technologies, what comes to mind is blockchain. And cryptocurrency is one application of the blockchain. There are many other applications, but cryptocurrency is the most popular one. Then there's AI and machine learning. Then there is robotics. Then there's cloud computing. Then there's Internet of Things. Then there is 4D printing. But I think the most popularly used one are cryptocurrency and AI. When you look at the fintech industry, they are heavily using now AI, and some are beginning to apply blockchain technologies, you know, for cybersecurity. Also, cloud technologies, I didn't mention it, cloud computing has been around, but a lot is now happening. A lot of innovations are coming into play to make the cloud computing technology very useful. For example, this Zoom application we're using is a cloud technology. Digital virtual reality is a cloud technology. IoT, Internet of Things application, when you use Internet of Things to monitor air pollution, when you use it for agriculture, it means that you're going to use cloud technology. So in a nutshell, emerging technologies in terms of blockchain, cryptocurrency, AI, big data analytics is here with us in Nigeria. But what we will be looking at, what is the impact? How is it helping our economy? Are we actually becoming global players in it? So maybe I can stop here. So in summary, emerging technology is here. We have private young entrepreneurs working in the blockchain space, working in the AI space, developing various applications. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor. And if there's anything we take away from that, definitely it looks like a place that is thriving locally here in country. We would like to hear now from Mr. Yusuf. Olaniyi, please, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. And I hope I'm audible.
Yes, we can hear you.
No. All right, thanks. So like Prof has rightly said, Emerging technologies are technologies that are either here, ready and being used, or those that could be ready and be used in another 2 to 5 years' time. And like she said, the important thing is really not to think of them in isolation, but to look at how they can be combined together to achieve things, right? So if you look at blockchain or Web 3.0, or if you look at cloud or analytics, today you have solutions that combine multiple of these technologies together to deliver value to the client. There's fintechs in Nigeria today that have made use of blockchain to create tokens, to create cryptocurrency that allows for cross-border payments. They have made use of the metaverse to create digital twins in terms of the way you manage and you design things. And so it's in combining the multiples of this that then gives value to the client. If you look at autonomous vehicles, it will be a mix of drone technology, a mix of sensors, IoT, cloud computing, or even 5G. And so that for me is what is exciting, is how can you combine? We're beginning to see examples of various combinations that is then given value to the client. And one must appreciate the efforts of the Nigerian youth, especially those in startups, the kind of experience they've built in the last 4 or 5 years, fusing together a number of these emerging technologies and using them to deliver products and services, not just for the Nigerian audience, but for the global audience. So as Nigerians migrate to UK, to US, they use this application, they use these products wherever they are. And so emerging tech allows us to develop products and services for a much more global audience. And really that's what some of the things we've seen in the last few years. Now, the areas of concern, like every other thing, how do you ensure everybody is able to use it? How do you ensure it can be used in a safe mode? But despite those concerns, I think we stand to benefit much more from the positive side of these emerging technologies.
Thank you very much, sir. I'm not sure we have Dr. Collins back now. He asked to be briefly excused, but we'll come back to him when he's back. Do we have Mr. Emmanuel Paul online now? He's also one of our panelists, or Professor Nicholas. All right, so I'll move on quickly to my next question. So using the scenario that I had painted earlier on about how the government came hard on cryptocurrency, I'm sure that that action, would have definitely caused some unrest in the ecosystem. It's stunted the whatever progress had been made in that regards. Not only did people have to close down whatever projects or efforts they were making, those who had made very valuable investments in that sector and in that particular area were definitely sent into rethinking their business models, maybe cutting their losses, and moving on to doing other things. So invariably, there could also be a lot of risk, associated with the adoption, the development and adoption of emerging technologies, especially in Nigeria. Naturally also, we could have people slowly adopting these new technologies, not knowing how it will pan out. I know that for a very long period, number of years, people who had bank accounts were not embracing the digital or the virtual routes because it's a system that we didn't understand. We didn't know if those ATM cards were going to lead to flinching of our bank accounts, if the digital terminals were going to become an easy way to be robbed of all your funding and all that. And so a lot of people stuck with the traditional way of banking until, you know, I think government policy now started helping to move people online, ensuring that they could embrace all these digital channels and co. So when it comes to emerging technologies, adoption could be slow for certain reasons that are germane, and it could even not be embraced at all. Can any of our panelists speak to any risk they perceive, and if there are risks perceived, why do we think it's so, and how do we think this can be managed to help with the embracing of emerging technologies in Nigeria? Any of the panelists is free to take the floor. Professor, Mr. Olaniyi, Dr. Collins, and co.
Okay, if I may, so like I said earlier, for everything there will always be risk. And I think the issue really is, how do you identify the risk and how do you manage the risk, right? So one of the risks you expect from emerging technologies, especially from AI, is the ethics, the responsible use of AI, right? How you ensure that AI will respect certain human rights, how you ensure that in coming up with embedding the data, the LLM that will support the work of the AI, that it is neutral and there's no bias, either in terms of gender bias or in terms of nationality bias. So if AI is done based on data reflecting values of the West, then the responses and the solutions that come from such an AI model will speak more to the West, because that's the data it has, and less to us in the South. And so responsible AI, ethics of AI, it's one issue. And then the second issue will be around access. Today, we talk about a financial exclusion. I think we're also beginning to witness a digital exclusion, where some people have access and some don't. I mean, if you look at Nigeria, there's a lot of submarine cable that have landed at the shoreline, most of them in Lagos. So there's decent internet coverage, reliable coverage in the South. But as you move in, become more expensive, becomes less available, right? So we're beginning to have a digital divide. And so we need to ensure that in coming up with emerging technologies and using emerging technologies, there are policies, there are regulations, there are incentives that will ensure an equitable spread, an equitable availability of those solutions and of those technologies across the various corners of the country, which then speaks to the issue of access. We need to have policies, we need to have guidelines that will promote equal access to these solutions. And irrespective of your social status, right, we all should have the same level of access that is guaranteed. That is critical. One thing people point out is that emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, like robotics, could lead to labor loss, which is true. But what I say is, we're in the fourth industrial revolution. The first industrial revolution did not lead to a net labor loss. The second one did not lead to a net labor loss. The third one did not. So the fourth one, based on IoT, AI, will also not lead to a net labor loss, because as some jobs are changed, new jobs are created. And cumulatively, we'll have more jobs being created due to the impact of emerging technologies in different sectors than jobs that will be lost. though a number of people will need to reskill themselves, they need to retool themselves. And so there have to be deliberate steps to let labor force understands the need to reskilling, retooling, and of course that there will be new jobs, new roles created. I think another critical issue to worry about in terms of risk of emerging technologies, it's how do you protect the consumer? Consumer protection. Be it, for instance, the easiest one is children, online safety for children so that children can be safe online. But you also have issues of data privacy. So earlier this year, Nigeria signed the Data Privacy Act into law, so which is good. So there have to be such laws and such guidelines that will protect the consumer, either the use of their data or the record that is kept of them, where it is kept, etc. And I think lastly will be issues around mental health. You know, as more children go online, as more people use technology, we also need to worry about their mental health. As more people face laptops and they face screens every day, the social structures will change. Today, if you go to a party or a gathering, instead of people networking and chatting, you find them all looking and looking at their cell phones and chatting away. Now that leads to fractions or frictions as it may be. And so part of the risk is really how to promote good mental health, promote good social well-being as these technologies are infused into the way we work and into the way we live, right?
Thank you very much, sir. That's a very a lot to take in, and but they are very, very cogent and germane points. If there's anything that resounds out of there for me, with every emerging technology that comes out and takes hold and take its place, there's always going to be a cultural shift. There's always going to be a change in how things are done. Adoption will mean that certain new things will have to be imbibed, and some practices will definitely have to be shared. And it's now a question of training ourselves to adapt to those changes, taking the positives and trying to make sure that we can foresee what bad trends could happen and see if that could be curtailed. I don't know if, before we move on a bit, Professor Gloria, if you have anything to add, please, if you do.
Yeah.
Yes, please just let me.
Yeah, the last speaker, Olaniyi, he has actually covered a lot. I just want to bring up this point that one of the risks and the changes about use of blockchain and cryptocurrency is that we don't have enough global standards. Because it's when the standards are well established that different countries will be able to regulate. And the technology itself, like the blockchain, because of the computing architecture of peer-to-peer communication, it makes it a big challenge for regulators. So that is one of the things that is slowing down the adoption of blockchain applications. But every day researchers are working, they are bringing up different forms of the blockchain computing architecture where there could be some control. So, for example, the e-naira is built on a type of blockchain, but it has control. It's permission blockchain, quite unlike the Bitcoin, where there is no central control. So one of the things that will help us as a country is capacity building at different levels for the public, the educational sectors, and the private sector. apparently the private sector seems to be doing more on this capacity building because it's when they deploy applications, they can make profits. So they go all out to educate their personnel. So the amazing, very amazing, huge benefits of the emerging technology, but the risks are also very challenging. Like if you look at cryptocurrency, early a few years ago, a lot of people made a lot of money from Bitcoin. Before you knew it, it crashed, although it's coming up again. And every blessed day, new type of cryptocurrencies are coming up. So it's becoming very difficult for standard making bodies to be able to make standards to help regulation. So this is also affecting adoption. So we need to wake up as a country to build capacity to be able to race after these technologies and know the ones that will impact on our economy positively. In the AI sector, a lot of people, even some of my colleagues, when I tell them about the beautiful features of ChatGPT, they say, no, you must never let your students use it, that it will make them lazy. But that's not the case in the other parts of the world. They are looking at it and making use of it to teach their students, allowing them to use it in various ways. So capacity building is very important, that various sectors get to know the features of this technology and how best we can make use of it.
Thank you very much.
Despite the risks.
Despite the risks. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So just keying into the last point you made, especially about capacity building. How would you say that we should leverage emerging technologies to build local solutions that can help with the different challenges we have in country? We suffer from a lot in terms of poor education, or maybe we should even say affordable, not just affordable education, but we have people groups who are not even interested in stepping into the four walls of the school to learn. But we know that there's a lot of value in formal education. So how could emerging technologies be used in areas of agriculture, healthcare, education, and even finance to boost the quality of the citizenship, and how can government also leverage such technologies to provide services to its citizens? While we have Professor looking into that, I'm sure Mr. Yusuf can also jump in to speak to that. If we have any of our panelists back online, Dr. Collins, Mr. Emmanuel, or Professor Nicholas, it's also a good time to have you chip in your bits. So how can the government of the day leverage emerging technologies to provide value to its citizenship? In the areas where we have some setbacks, so to say, how can we look at using these forms of technology to bridge the gap?
Wow.
Yeah, thank you, moderator. If I could jump in, I'm online.
Please do.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I had an emergency, so I left online briefly.
Welcome back.
Yes. So I try not to use the word capacity. I prefer using the word capability, because within capability, there's also capacity. And that capability means also, besides the knowledge you're gaining, is also carrying out what they call the field applications of knowledge. Very, very key. Now, in this era of fourth industrial revolution, it is paramount that we must build what we call industry sought after skills within our workforce, starting from the feedstock of innovation, which is academia. We need to always find a way, to see how we're in line with the trends when it comes to emerging technologies, especially. So let me start with education. Now, if you look at the educational ecosystem in Nigeria, there's a disjoint between the academia and industry. Why? Because it's the academia, it's the industry that actually drives academia when it comes to what we call research and development that drives innovation. Why this is important is that we're moving from analytical now to creative. There's a paradigm shift from analytical thinking to creative thinking. Very, very key. Just as most people don't understand that your certificates, I'm not saying it's not important, but the era of just looking at a certificate is basically going away, shifting towards areas that are the era that is skills-based, competence-based. So the question is that what can you do with your hands? What can you do? Okay, I've gone 5 years computer science, gone 5 years computer engineering. How can I solve problem? So we must build what they call the problem-solving capability within our workforce of students. How do you do that? We must now transition into what they call project-based learning methodology. Very, very key. Where it's no longer just theoretical. We should find a way where there's a lot of field application of whatever is being taught in our tertiary institutions. Then number 2, we should also do what they call adoption and subsequent adaptation of technology. Because we can't take first world technology always to third world realities. Without adaptation, then it fails. And that is where the question of sustainability comes. Now, we need to embrace education technology. It is very, very key, using various platforms that are developed today, both indigenously developed education technology platform and also foreign ones. That's in the absence of non-digital one. We have education technology platforms like Unity Board, IOAI STEAM Education Kit that was developed in Nigeria here. And so far, it's done really magic. University of Nigeria and Soka today has even purchased various of those boards for, actually tutoring some of their lecturers under the scheme called Train the Trainer. So it is very, very important that the academia need to see how they can rejig some of this curriculum to embed the necessary skills, so that our students, the output of the academia will not just be spectators, but also be players. And this is what drives outsourcing. Where I can be in Nigeria, I don't have to Japan necessarily, where I can get jobs given to me, especially in upstream ICT, not necessarily downstream, but you need skill sets for that. Absolutely. And that is why I commend the Nigerian University Commission, because I got information now that they've given 30% liberty to tertiary education now to introduce some customized training or to do some customized curriculum. I feel that most other universities should actually do their research and see where the industry trends are going, where those futuristic areas, how do we make our students to be future-proof? How do we make our workforce to be employable for those skills that are needed? Then finally, I have to point out that there's this prediction by DAFOS that there'll be massive job losses due to automation. For any single job loss, 3 more created. But the issue is that do we have the necessary skill sets to fit into those new job sets or new roles? That is where the upskilling and reskilling of our workforce as a whole is very, very important. Otherwise, we'll not be able to participate in these emerging technologies. So I think I'll stop here at the moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doctor. That was a handful. And I reckon, you saying that we can't take first world technologies and, just plug them into third world conditions and expect them to work seamlessly. Nigeria has its own peculiar challenges. Right now, I understand that there is a national grid collapse, and so there's power. The only place you find power is NCC, and places where they can afford to run generators on the current rates of diesel. But, a lot of these technologies will expect that conditions such as uninterrupted power, internet that isn't breaking. In fact, the internet requirements might be super fast in gigs, and that might not be the kind of conditions present in our own localities. So yes, those are food for thought. But in spite of these conditions, local capacity can step up to try and customize such emerging technologies into our local context and cause them to provide similar, if not better, results. I don't know if Professor Gloria or Mr. Yusuf have any other thing to add before I now throw this open to general participants in the House in the room and those online who might want to, one or two people who might want to contribute something based on the questions that we have asked earlier, before we now move into the question and answer session for this particular topic, emerging technologies, insights on Nigeria. Professor Gloria, Mr. Yusuf, do you have?
Oh, yeah. I just want to commend the last speaker, Dr. Colin Sagu. Oh, he's a hands-on man. One of the things that is lacking in Nigeria is industry-academia collaboration in research and development. So for many years, the academia have been working in silos. So there's some effort about 2 years ago to form collaboration, and it was being driven by TechPoint. And it seems that it has died down a little, but it needs to be reawakened, because this is what is driving innovation in other countries. If I'm in the academia and I develop something in isolation from what the industry wants, then it just ends up in a journal article. But if I'm developing it in collaboration with an industry that is interested, then at the end of the day, it can be put to use. So this is one of the things that is lacking. IoT can be used to collect weather data related to farmers in Kano, in Kaduna, in different places. And it can even get to their phone. They can get information on weather. They can get information on other things, temperatures that will help them with their farming activities. They can also get information on where to go and sell their products and make profit. All these things are available, but we do research on it. It ends up in articles in journals, and nobody makes use of it. So I don't know how this thing we can overcome it, because in UK, in US, research is geared towards what they will use, not just universities working on their own. So that's what I want to add. I commend the last speaker, because I've had occasions when I was at IEEE each year of working with him. He was bringing his embedded system boards and helping students to do activities with it. So thank you very much. I thank everyone for listening and being active in this session.
Thank you very much, Professor. Mr. Yusuf, do you have anything to add before I go back to Dr. Collins?
Sure, thanks. I think a few things. I think everything starts, like I say, begin with the end in mind. So everything should start with a plan, right? And it would be nice to have a plan of what we want to do, how we want to do it, who will be involved, when, why are we doing it, where do we want to do it? The 5 W's and the how. Today, Singapore has an AI strategy. National AI strategy. Rwanda has an AI plan. Now, the Dr. Tijani Bosun has started the process of developing an AI strategy for the country. So that is fine. And it's hoped that the plan will then identify the risk and how to mitigate the risk, but more importantly, how to drive adoption. When Prof was speaking a while ago, she mentioned that some of our colleagues were wondering why she wants to introduce ChatGPT for our students. And I recall that in my secondary school days, we were using 4-figure table to calculate, right? And then it was a taboo to bring calculators into the classrooms, right? But all you could do was just 4-figure tables. But when my kids were in secondary school, they don't know what 4-figure tables are. During my children's period in secondary school, it became acceptable to use calculator in the classrooms. So I bet that in another few years, it will become acceptable to have ChatGPT and AI tools acceptable in our classrooms. And I think it's that when we have such an holistic plan, you can then explain to everyone that things evolve. And so we as a nation also need to evolve. And lastly, it's also identifying and developing use cases that are relevant for our own environment. You know, the South is unique from the North, right? I mean, we don't have snow, to put it mildly. And so whatever happens in the North, we cannot lift and drop and accept everything in the South. So we've got to define what our own use case. Like the moderator said, there's been a power outage since 12 a.m. Yeah, so how would that affect research? How would that affect the use of technology? And so part of the plan should be to identify relevant use cases and also to identify relevant priorities. And when those priorities start from the outside in now we refer to the linkages that Prof talks about, right? If we are producing students, where are we producing them for? And how do we then ensure that their ultimate destination will accept them? And so if we start from that, then we use those to prioritize, identify priorities, and that can then help us channel and mobilize resources into those identified priorities and use cases. And I would say lastly is we need to be open and seek partnership across broad, partnership between the academia and the private sector, partnership between the public sector and the private sector, partnership between the private sector and the civil society, partnership between Nigeria and different African countries, or between Africa and China, between the East and the West. We should embrace partnership across board and not just focus on technologies from the West or technologies from the East or whatever. Ours is to embrace across board, have multi-sectoral partnerships, and pick the best and make it work for our own environment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yusuf. That was a very lovely set of contributions. Going back to you, Dr. Agu. So Prof spoke earlier about the industry academia partnership to a point where those in the academia doing research are able to produce products built on technologies such that they are able to sell in the business space. They're able to sell outside the campuses because they are meeting valid human needs. Knowing that you sit close to a table where policies in this direction in the past have been designed and are being designed, could you take a few minutes to speak to this particular point and kindly add to it that, what the last speaker, Mr. Yusuf, said about producing students who are not just concerned about coming out of the universities with a certificate, but coming out with skills that can help, that will not only help them thrive in the real world, but also help solve real life solutions, provide real life solutions to real challenges.
Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. I think one of the major achievements of the past administration, I must mention, very, very important, is Executive Order 3 and 5. Simply put, it says basically, produce what you consume, consume what you produce. And that is in line with one of the pillars of the STRAP document championed by NIDA. STRAP is Strategic Roadmap and Action Plan. Is basically the de facto 4-year IT plan for the whole of Nigeria, which I chair the committee that actually developed that very document, or say crafted it. Then the second reference I will make is what they call the NDEF, National Digital Economy Policy and Strategy for a Digital Nigeria, which is directly or championed by the Federal Ministry of Communication, Innovation, and Digital Economy. Now, under this, that one has 9 pillars. The NDEF has 9 pillars. SRAP has 7 pillars. Now, what is common? I mean, the point of intersection between these two policies is what we call indigenous content promotion or local content promotion. That is very, very key, because that is the only way you could drive patronage of local solutions. both product and services. Not only that, on the part of NIDA, we went further on how we can actually patronize local product, because without patronage, okay, there'll be no demand. Without patronage, there'll be no demand for the product, definitely. So the local content law now drives, for example, let me give an example now. NIDA is a de facto IT-centric project clearing house for the whole of the MDA across Nigeria. I don't know how many of you are aware of that. So under NIDA, how would they call the project clearance committee, which I'm a member. So when you come with your scope of work, you're giving us a lot of foreign computers. We ask you, please, don't you have any local companies? I don't want to start mentioning company names. Let's look as if I'm marketing for any of them anyway. So we ask you, please, so specification you're asking for. You want to procure foreign computer or have a local one? Okay, so.
Oh, your audio is failing, sir.
It's muted.
Yeah.
Dr. Agu? Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, it's back up now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Please, I'm actually in a remote area, Nike Lake Hotel. Those of you that know Enugu very well. So the network here is not too good. Okay, so it's a Professor.
Muted, sir.
Yeah.
So, okay, so in order not to hold up the session, do we have any online participants who have posed a question? Dr. Agu, you might want to round up.
Yeah, can you hear me, please? Just a very fast one, anyway. I understand the challenges with academia when it comes to R&D, where there's no patronage. But I strongly feel that with the local content law, if it is operationalized, one is to have it in papers, another thing is to operationalize it. That will help alleviate the challenges they're having when it comes to R&D, where they can actually address some of our challenges here using local technology. But I must actually point out that a lot is already happening when it comes to patronage of our local technology. But the challenges there is that still some of them don't have those let me put it this way, those how do I put it now? Those emerging technology skills fully. Yes, but it's a journey we've embarked on, and so far so good, to be frank. But again, there's need to build that research capability, and it starts also from infusing some of this emerging knowledge in our in our academia as a whole. Not only academia, also what they call the maker space. Sometimes we tend to tilt only towards academia. We also have the maker space, where we have people that have not formally gone to the universities, they are doing wonders. I give examples like Co-Camp Enugu, here where I am, UTC in Abuja. Some of these kids never been to university, but they are doing so much, with their natural talent they have. So those areas also has to be promoted and looked into as well. So thank you very much. Let me round up here.
Thank you very much, sir. So going now to other online participants, is there anyone who has one or two contributions based on what we've heard so far before we come to those in the house, in the room here with us? Do we have any online participants with their hands up? Yes, can we give the floor? I see a Daniel. Maybe I'll mute the mic.
Thank you very much. Engineer Daniel from the University of Port Harcourt. Actually, I'm the head of IT innovations and research. So I'm actually very much inclined to what Dr. Collins said, because in writing Uniport in the area of petroleum studies, we had some industry as experts. Health came in and they converted one of our MSc programs to an industry structure. So and they were able to now fund and create a center now known as Institute of Petroleum Studies And by funding that center, students came there to do MSc in petroleum management and economics. And from there, they were exposed to quite a lot of skills. Now, coming to the IT sector, last year, we gave samples for students to come in for internship. And it will shock us that most of these students, they don't even know what is happening in the industry. And we come to I'm actually from the industry, but as a consultant to the university, we come into the lecturers, what are the challenges? The response is always, they write papers, give presentations, and the government asks for proposals, they write, and it ends up somewhere. We now went ahead to create an innovations hub close to the university, and we have now called in these students. Come and see how we can collaborate and solve real-life situations. For instance, now our focus is on security. We have been able to create a replica, something like a replica of what happens in the United States. We have created that as a security-wise. Now, we are now saying, is it possible, or how can we get such information out to the government? That this is an idea coming in from the university aspect. Because some of these things we can.
So is muted? What happened? Okay, so sorry, Daniel, you got muted. But we get your contribution and and the question you were trying to pose. Incidentally, we happen to have someone from one of the biggest businesses, global businesses around. So I will pose your question to her. And I think she will introduce herself further. But one thing, before doing that, one thing I would like to say, first of all, is...
So we are not asking.
So one thing I would like to say, first of all, is that in terms of the students not being up to par with what is happening in the global space, isn't that a function of the curriculum we run? Because I'm looking at, for a student of computer science studies or whatever in Nigeria's university today, what are the courses that they are taking? Are they not still doing the Fortran, COBOL of the years when computers were running on mainframe, and all that? But in terms of the question you were trying to pose in the direction of for research ideas, that synergy between the academia and business to a point where maybe they're able to fund or to take some of these ideas or put some of these ideas into a commercial state. I would like to hear from Madame from Meta to see, just to speak to maybe from your own experience, from the company standpoint, if you've had any approach from academias, and if you've been able to help fund any of those ideas, maybe you might want to speak a bit to that aspect. Just help me.
Thank you. I'm Shade Dara from Meta. I came here to this session to learn about some of the local emerging technology use cases and innovative solutions folks are developing. But I'm in relation to collaborations with universities, we actually do that and have for a long time. One collaboration that comes to mind is a program that we've funded with the Lagos Business School. They have what is it called? Human Center. It's HCI, Human Center something. Huh? No, it's called Human Centered something. I'll get the name of it before we leave here. I think that's what it is, but it's HCI anyway. And they have that particular department is looking at innovative solutions through VR technology, and the professor we are working with, Professor Eugene, is looking at specifically, I think his last name is Ohu or Ohu, yes. We've actually funded his research and that particular department. And they're looking at the use of VR to promote empathy in society. And I think it's pretty groundbreaking work. It's very, it's a real practical way of how technology can be at the intersection of solving very real issues in our society. So that's just one example. We also partner with the African Leaders University that has branches of different countries, and we partner with them to do our Spark AR competition, which is, not focused only on the research that takes place within universities, but how do you bring in people who are outside of the university setting that are working on some of these innovative solutions. So we fund that as well. For our large language model called Llama, we originally released it only into the research community so that they could tweak it, modify, add their 2 cents to it, make it better. And only after doing that was it made available on a commercial basis. And so that was a whole year of working with researchers across the globe to enhance this particular large language model. And then this summer, I would say, I think it was July, that we launched it for commercial use. And now there are a number of folks who are using our AI model and enhancing it and tweaking it based off of what researchers had come up with. So there's a lot of that already going on. It's a really good model. It's a strong model that has proven true and useful over the course of innovation for decades. And the last thing I'll say about that is for the Nigeria national AI policy that Minister Dr. Bosun Tijani is working on, he did a call out for researchers. So they're looking at what Nigerian researchers are focused on AI currently, both here in Nigeria and abroad, to help shape that policy. And I think that's a good step. The policy actually is not, there is one policy that was never launched. NIGF worked on a policy over the course of last year into this year, but it hadn't been released. So I believe that Minister Tijani is looking at the existing policy draft and how to bring it to fruition, take it across the finish line. So yeah, that's my contribution.
Thank you. Thank you. That's wonderful. Thank you very much. Yes, so thank you for that. And I believe we have some new information there, especially those who are interested in AI. It's a good time to plug into the opportunity to contribute to what policy comes out, because this also governs how it's adopted and how it operates in the country. So do we have anyone still online or here in the room who would want to? Yes. So please just introduce yourself when you take the mic.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ahmed Timothy. All the panelists have actually spoken very well. In just a contribution to how we can make our curriculum better. I went online some time ago and I was looking for some courses in some UK universities. And I saw that in their curriculum, some of the courses are with 1 year work experience. Like you can go for a course on computer science, and then you can add 1 year experience with, say, Meta. You can have 1 year experience with, maybe as a mechanical engineer, you can opt in for 1 year experience with one of the big car producing agencies. So I don't know what stops us from having that in our curriculum as well. It can even help to reduce some of the unemployment issues that we have. And then coming to the emerging technology, one of the major things that actually hampers makes them not to try is the general acceptance by the public. Now, the Central Bank of Nigeria has launched the INERA. In this room, I just want to ask a question. How many of us have the INERA app on our phone as Nigerians? Just put up your hands. Yes, exactly. So if we've not embraced the innovations that we ourselves have, come up with, then there's no way they will thrive. That's my contribution.
Thank you. That's a very valid point. If we ourselves are just looking out for what's happening on the global space and not using, what's been indigenously developed, we won't be encouraging the ecosystem, and such ideas we won't cause it to thrive. But maybe there is also another part of that, which is looking at how other global organizations get to have traction for their products and try to replicate the same trend rather than just expecting that because it's a local product, it should get some traction. But do we have any of our panelists that wants to react to that? We'll be happy to hear one or two alternate views.
Not sure what he said. What do you want us to react to?
So he spoke about, first of all, the educational curriculum, and then delved into the aspect that, overseas, in some practices overseas, you're able to run an internship or work in internship while you're learning. So that helps to get some hands-on experience. And finally, also talked about adopting local technology using the case of eNaira, how many of us have embraced that technology and are using it. And, so vis-a-vis, we can look at this with how this affects innovation the use of emerging technologies locally here in Nigeria. The fact that it's made in Nigeria for Nigerians, is there any challenge with that? And what are the things that can be done to enhance adoption of locally made solutions? Because it is the belief that any solution made locally is supposed to help resolve a local need. So is it enough to have these products made by Nigerians in Nigeria, or what else should we be looking to do, especially in terms of having people adopt such technologies or solutions?
Okay, thank you very much. There's a lot now, but let me start with the curriculum. I think our curriculum is okay. Recently, it has been revised, and we have been given a 30% opportunity to add new content. So the curriculum is not the problem. Then on internship, for many years now, we have the universities and polytechnics program in such a way that for the universities of technology, in your second year, you go for 3 months internship. Third year, you go for 3 months internship. In your fourth year, you go for 6 months internship. But the problem is that there are not enough industries to take these our students. In fact, recently we started organizing in-house acquisition of skills for them. But it's not easy to simulate what is happening in the industry in the campus. So it's a hydra-headed problem, but with perseverance We are hoping that we will get there. Then on using our made in Nigeria products, well, there must be a process owner for every product. That process owner needs to market and market and market the product. Else people will not know the benefits and will not key into it. So I just want to be brief because there may be others that may want to talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor, for that. That is lovely. Do we have any contribution from our other panelists? Dr. Agu, Mr. Yusuf? Okay, so at this point, we can delve into questions, we'll try to use the few minutes we might have left judiciously on that. Do we have questions? We've heard quite a lot, and I'm sure that we have enough resources here to be able to answer some of these questions. Please introduce yourself as you speak.
My name is Babatunde Tijani, and my question actually goes to Professor Gloria. While she was speaking, there was a point that I noted that she talked about. I just want her to explain further on it. She made mention of not enough global standard under emerging technologies. And I just want to know what could be the causal factor. Is it priorities of the government or brain drain? So that's just the area that I need further clarification. That's my question.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. Let me take it one by one. For example, in blockchain space, the global standardization bodies are ISO, IEEE, and ITU. So they have really published some standards, but most of these standards are on cryptocurrency because there's a lot of hype for cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum. But there are other blockchain applications for supply chain management, for government, for educational sector that they have not looked into to develop standards for. So actually, these emerging technologies, they are global things, global technologies that everybody can key in. So the way it happens is that these global standard making bodies make the standards. Then all the countries in the world belong to ITU. So they will now take it to their home and then make their own policy. And with their own policy, their regulatory, relevant regulatory organization, like if it's one that impacts the telecom sector, NCC will make the regulation. If the one that impacts just the ICT, NIDA will make the regulation, and so on and so forth. If the one that involves like drugs, NAFDAC will make the regulation. So that's how it works on regulation. And then why I said that there's not enough too is the rate at which innovative technologies in these areas are coming up. So it's not easy for these global organizations to come up very quickly with standards for what these young people are unleashing to the space. So have I answered all your questions? Because you took several in one go. Are there some questions I have not answered?
There was a question. There was a question around, priority of governments or brain drain. What could happen?
Is it because of the brain drain? No. It's not because of that. Because you see, as I said, Nigerians, all the countries in the world are represented in these global standardization organizations. So wherever you are, like the IEEE standard body, wherever you are, you can contribute to making standards. So it's not a question of the fact that some people are leaving Nigeria. If you are good, you can participate in making standards. Then there are government representatives in these, in ITU, in ISO. So it's not a question of brain drain. Where brain drain can come in is like our own local regulatory body. if like a staff of NCC are all living for the greener pasture, or NEDA, or NAFDAC, or SON are all living for greener pasture, then it means we don't have enough expertise to regulate that space. That's where brain drain can come in.
Okay, so I'm Engineer Alice Lawrence. Thank you so very much, all our panelists this afternoon. You've said a lot. In order not to reinvent the wheel, I have a few points that I've written down here. So for me, if I don't say them, I'm going to go to my question, but it is important I talk about these things. Okay, Professor Gloria talked about the data privacy law. I know earlier in the meeting that was also talked about, but you know, I'm a Nigerian, but for the first time, you know, I've had that like one time too many. That is to say, my awareness about this data privacy law actually was something that was trumped today. So to help every Nigerian out there to become aware, I think we cannot overemphasize the awareness that has to be created around this. It has to be really, really emphasized across all levels. I don't know how the government is going to do this, but it has to be done. Emerging technology, actually, for me, okay, coming from that area, actually, I'm a computer engineer by formal education up to PhD level. And then I want to talk about the roadmap. If the roadmap is actually not inclusive, capturing the academia, because take it or leave it, the gap that exists between the academia and the industry is something that really had to be pushed. And I had written that like a paid internship before this guy over there will raise it up. If that will be included into the policy to make it compulsory, if I go for my 2-year academic master's, 1 year in that program, I should be able to align myself with an industry in my research focus to be able to gain knowledge in that direction. And then as I'm getting done with my MSc, I'm not only employable, I'll be able to go in the line of my research and start up something, and then maybe create an ICT for the people that did the same thing. And then the other thing I was also looking at is a synergy between the private, public, and the government. The private sector, the public, I don't know if every other person is in the public sector beside the government and the academia. This three, it has to work. If it doesn't, then we just really have to keep on acquiring certificates without skill. Then I have just to risk to mention the first is the high rate of false positive that comes with the use of artificial intelligence. As we try to embrace this technology, what are we doing to address the high rate of false positive or even negatives that comes with artificial intelligence? And then my last is the security concern. Now looking at the CIA triad, the confidentiality, integrity, and the availability of this data. And then I give my data out, like Ojisola, I think, was saying earlier. And then I got unsolicited messages that I do not subscribe to. Who do I hold responsible? Is it the person to whom I give my data or the data center that is hosting my data? I think these are various concerns because there's a lot of data inconsistency out there. Because you're not sure what someone is going to use your data for, you can supply whatever just to get that thing done. So how are we sure, as in we'll harmonize this data across board to be sure that this data is consistent and it has integrity? I think I have to stop here after that. I will not push too much into the time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we have just about a little under 5 minutes to round up our session, 5 minutes and a few seconds. Does any one of our panelists want to take a stab at addressing what has been put out there in terms of the roadmap and a roadmap for emerging technologies, you know, high positives, you know, and who should hold responsible Is it data collectors, controllers? Does anyone want to help?
Yeah, okay, let me come in here briefly. Thank you. Thank you for asking, for your contribution. But it's quite a mouthful, quite huge. So I was struggling to actually understand the whole process, but I got a very good understanding to some extent. Now, the issue of data privacy is very, very important, and NIDA took it very, very serious. Now, we have what they call Nigerian Data Protection Regulation. So most of the issues that you are raised is already addressed in this very this document, which can be downloaded from the NIDA's government website. Now, it is very important for us to understand that the betting of the Nigerian Data Protection Commission actually started within NIDA. Under the NIDA, the e-government department was handling the Nigerian Data Protection Regulation, which was developed in-house referencing the EU one. But seeing the strategic importance of data protection, the past Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Professor Ali Ibrahim, saw the need to actually yank it out of NIDA and turn it to a full commission. So Nigeria today has a Data Protection Commission that is in charge with everything, in all aspects of, data privacy and so on and so forth. So some of those moments that are raised, we can actually have a look at those documents and then get a response to that. Now, the issue of artificial intelligence, AI is a very, very plays a major role, but at the same time, it has its own risks. Because it will also be biased. All this AI works on data sets, so it depends on the kind of data you're feeding into it. That's when it can give a certain output. In the computer science, is garbage in, garbage out. And in line with the strategic importance of AI, NIDA championed the creation of National Center for AI and Robotics, with a primary focal point on AI as well. Recall not quite long, I think it was also mentioned here by the moderator that the current minister, Dr. Bosun, actually issued out a statement, inviting the aspirants to be involved in the creation of AI strategy for Nigeria. So these are some of the steps that are being taken in respect to, how do I put it now, infusing emerging technology within our own ecosystem. At the same time, carrying out adaptation to make sure that it suits us for sustainability. The other earlier questions, I couldn't get it very well, but I'll stop here due to time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Agu. So just in a minute, please, can you give your closing remarks? Or is there anything you want to add to what we've been saying so far? You have the floor, and you can please do that.
I'm okay.
Okay, from my side, I just want to say that the emerging technologies, blockchain, AI, they have very great benefits that can solve a lot of our issues in Nigeria. But there's one thing, for example, in AI, it's algorithm that works on data and then gives you prediction. But most of our data, like in health, in education, in agriculture, they are yet to be digitized. So some of the information we are using on AI are based on data from other parts of the world. So it has become important that ministries' data in health, private sector data to start getting digitized, and it will be in reference with this data protection law. Because when we can actually harvest most of the benefits of AI is if we work with our own data, then we can predict more accurately and get information that will be very useful for our local environment. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to participate.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor. We appreciate the value you brought. Dr. Agu, your closing remarks.
Thank you very much. I think everything has been said. And, I want to just commend the organizers of this very platform. And I really wish we could have more often such stakeholders a discussion, so that to create a common page for us to have cross-pollination of ideas. So thank you one more for inviting us. And it's very, very important for all of us to pay attention to emerging technologies and embrace local solutions, no matter how crude. Thank you for having us and good luck. Bye.
And I want to use this opportunity to also thank Mr. Yusuf. He had a hard stop and had to drop off many times for the brilliant contribution. Thank you to all the panelists and to all the participants, both online and those of us here in the room. It's been a wonderful discussion, and I'm sure that we will look forward to continue to engage in this space and on this topic at different forums. Do enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you.